Dr. Jayne Morgan,
Yes.
welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So happy to have you. So it's a pleasure to have you. And I really want to just first let the audience know who you are and where you've come from. And
Okay.
yeah, some
All
more
right.
background on you.
So my name is Dr. Jayne Morgan. I am a cardiologist. I work in the digital AI space. I'm the Vice President of Medical Affairs for Hello Heart, which is the fastest growing digital heart health company in the world. You should check it out. I'm the Vice President of Medical Affairs there. The other thing that I do is I specialize a lot in women's health, especially menopause and perimenopause and how it's related to heart disease. If you're wondering, why is a cardiologist talking about that? Because I talk about how women's risk of heart disease actually increases during that period of time. And my background by training, I am a research cardiologist. I spent a lot of time in clinical trials and leading study sites and working in pharma as well at Solvay Pharmaceuticals and AbbVie in real R&D, research and development, but also as well in medical affairs and business development. So my career has been somewhat circuitous. I've done any number of things as I have evolved and grown into the wealth of knowledge that I am today. It doesn't take just an ordinary path to become me.
Yeah,
Right.
Wonderful. Now, you've also been featured on CNN and some other broadcasts. I mean,
Sure.
you're just brought in as an expert to really talk about the challenges with cardiovascular disease.
That's right. Well, I come in as an expert not only for cardiovascular disease, but also as a medical analyst for any number of topics.
Oh, nice.
So if any of your listeners have seen me before, I might be talking about anything. I've covered, the wildfires in LA and what smoke inhalation and
this.
burns and what you can do if you are trapped without a paramedic and you've got a burn and how to manage it. So I talk about any number of medical problems. I specialize in heart disease, but I am trained as a general internist. And when I go on television, I talk about any number of health topics.
Wonderful. Well, let's dive into that because we are a community of health business owners. And, part of the Health Business Growth Collective is we help these doctors or any health business owners really grow and scale their business. And part of that is media.
Right.
Is really getting their voice out there. So where did you start? Because you just don't jump right into CNN, right?
It's funny. You start with the pandemic.
Well, that's a great marker to start.
Right. First, you got to have a pandemic, right? And so the pandemic happened, and I was at Piedmont Healthcare, and we were all being redeployed. If you can remember back, we didn't have PPE, and it was just a scramble in the hospitals at scale. And I began to try, I was the head of the COVID task force, and I began to try to think of what I could do to make an impact. And I went back to what was my bread and butter, which was research. So I started looking at the data in the hospital and publishing it. And publishing in medical journals. News agencies were reading the medical journals. This wasn't New York Times. This was, the medical journals. And they would call and ask me questions. And then they would call and ask me to come on. I was also learning more and more about COVID. I was listening in on the, FDA briefings and that sort of thing. And I think the news media began to associate me with COVID and a COVID expert. And I was publishing and I was speaking on it. So they began to call me. And I think there were so few of us that nobody asked if I had any media credentials, which I did. And I look at some of the earlier ones. I'm looking off in the wrong camera. I'm looking down. I don't, I'm kind of a mess. I never bothered to comb my hair, just whatever I'm doing that day.
Yep.
It took me a long time to teach myself, but I think I had that long runway because we were in a pandemic and everybody needed information. So they sort of would let this doctor, me, who was a novice and didn't know what they were doing as far as media savvy, but I had good content. I had information, I had knowledge, and I was able to speak and able to present that information in a way that was understandable to their audience. Even if I didn't necessarily look the part and wasn't looking at the right camera and didn't quite know what I was doing, my content was good.
Yeah.
And so they kept coming back to the content. And so I think, in a pandemic, the bar was a little lower. They didn't need all the parts. They just wanted the content. They wanted the information.
Right. Yeah.
And then that's how it began. And I started to get better and better and better and better until, I started to develop a lot of media skills. But first, people, you got to have a pandemic. where the bar is low.
Well, let's not have it. We don't need another pandemic, okay? I think there's easier ways to figure this one out. Yeah. But I think the answer here is that you found something that people were looking for information on. And you were a trailblazer, right? Back in this day, you were producing research, you're producing information that everybody was hungry for. And I think that's a great lesson for our audience to say, figure out what people are hungry for, or, you know, as the old saying goes, skate to where the puck's going to be. Because that's exactly what you did. You had this wealth of knowledge, and this thing started brewing up, and then you gathered this information. I just kind of stepped into it. I wasn't looking for media. And it turns out I had good speaking skills and good teaching skills. And a lot of that, you know, I had spent years with, you know, students and medical students and high school students and graduate students, and, you know, ran internship programs at the hospital where I'm constantly teaching. And those skills turned out they were very translatable to the media, because I have to teach at all levels, and I had to make it understandable for everyone. And apparently that was very relatable to the public. So these were all skills that I brought. So when COVID hit and I started publishing, the media started contacting, we're looking for the author of this paper, somebody named Dr. Jayne Morgan. Literally nobody knew what was going on. It wasn't so much that I had great media presence. I had great teaching skills, speaking skills, and I had good content and knowledge. And the rest, they sort of let go under the radar because we were in a pandemic. They let it just slide. But the rest I developed on my own over time. Right. Yeah. And you're passionate too. I mean, people relate to you. They want, because you can simplify things. You're very energetic. Like they love watching you. And I love watching you here as you're talking, because you are so animated, and it's what people want. They don't want somebody to come on and blah, 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 blah. And here's the science of this. Right? Like nobody wants to listen to that. They want to be engaged. They want to be informed. And you do a great job at that. And I think that's a lesson to our audience, is to, you know, go start local.
Right.
Maybe if you've got something you want to talk about, you have an expert in something.
Right.
Go on those shows.
Absolutely.
Show that, and then watch it. See what you're saying, see what you're doing. Like you said, you're looking off, and you know, I've realized I say a lot of things and that I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. I said that over and over and over. We use those gap words or something like that. So you find ways of honing your skill.
That's right.
Which you did.
Right.
You brought great information, and you brought great enthusiasm and great knowledge in a simple form.
And I'll tell you something else that I did, even though I sort of started maybe at the top with CNN. You don't usually just jump straight into CNN. But I'll tell you other things that I did. No job was too small. Even though I was on CNN, I was also on the most yokel stations in small town, Georgia, Alabama. Anybody who called me, if they had an internet and I could beam in, there was no organization that I thought was too small for me or wouldn't be of value to me. Now, part of that was I wasn't trying to grow my brand as much as I was trying to make certain that everybody had good information about COVID, because we needed to end the pandemic and it was kind of all hands on deck. But when I look back on it, I think something that you need to think about is when you're starting out, there is no venue that maybe is inappropriate. Go everywhere. You don't ever know who will be sitting there or who will be listening or what you'll learn. It was all those local ones where I got better and better and better. Every time I was out there, I was getting better and better and better and better for the CNN opportunities.
Right.
So, you know.
Those are the stages you want to like stumble on.
Right.
Stumble on the small stage. That's why comedians.
And you got to do hundreds, do a lot of them. I did them all. But again, this is me going back and looking at the lessons. I didn't do it for that reason. But when I look back on it, these were all areas where I'm honing my skills. I'm just not sitting waiting for the CNN to call me again. I'm literally working, and I'm doing tons of media in between the next CNN. And those people were important too, because you reach people in different venues, different audiences, different types of people. Every venue is not going to bring you the same person.
Yeah. So true. All right, well, let's get into the rebel in you, because I know that you've got some great information out there. And so I've got some questions here. So you said that medicine in many ways has been built on data that doesn't fully represent everyone. So there are moments where we're treating patients using evidence that was never truly designed for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not supposedly, it is. It
Yes, it
happens.
is.
That's how it is,
Yeah.
right? Because medicine was built on male data, specifically on white male data.
Mm.
That's who drives the health system.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of extrapolated to the rest of the world. The U.S. sends out medications and devices to everywhere. And the only thing we really know is that it works on white men. We have no other information on it. We presume that what's good for us is good for everyone else, right? And it turns out that's probably not true. And it's probably not true for gender specifically. It's probably not true for race and cultures. And women, where it's been a lot of time in women's health, have really been harmed by that thought process. We haven't been included in research. We haven't been included in research trials, which means the data that gets approved is probably not relevant to us. Turns out, our bodies biologically, pathophysiologically are different.
Oh, yeah.
Turns out we have this thing called perimenopause and menopause. We have hormones change. It's just like we have pregnancy. We have all kinds of things. Somehow we just never considered those things. And so now, I try to push to say we really should kind of do a more careful analysis of this. What's good for the goose may not be good for the gander. Yeah. So let's have another thought.
Yeah, they're like, you have a heart, I have a heart. Like, we all have hearts. Like, that's great. Like, no, that's not the way this works. Right. We're all built differently.
Right.
So what are some recommendations that you see of how we can change the system, how we can start to look at different, sexes, races, gender, whatever it may be, like, how can we really start to bring this into a true healthcare for all?
Yeah, let's just get a marker and just draw a complete X over it, and let's just start up.
Yeah, right.
I'm being sarcastic, but I think it's going to take voices like me and tons of other people. Women are starting to galvanize, especially with female physicians, to push to say, you know what, Dr. Morgan is right. This doesn't make sense. Why are we accepting the way that we're being taught? One thing about being trained in a patriarchal system like our health system is it also trains you to not question it. Yeah. This is the data. This is the knowledge that comes from on high. Your job is to learn this knowledge and apply it, not to question it.
This is an established medical school. Right. Like this information is like you're getting the best information out there. There we go.
And so you are indoctrinated to learn it, to master it, to apply it. But you don't challenge it, question it, even if it's not working in your favor. And that's where I'm trying to break the mold, probably unpopularly, but that's where I'm trying to break the mold. People are starting to come on board and go, it's just kind of making sense. Maybe there was that thing I've kind of noticed, but I didn't want to challenge anybody over it. But the fact of the matter is that doesn't work for my female patients, and I know it doesn't work. And what happens? We do workarounds for our patients. That's what doctors do, especially female doctors for their female patients. We kind of do a little workaround. I'm going to prescribe this blood pressure pill for you. It's probably going to be too strong. I'm going to tell you to take half of it. Very unscientific, but we also kind of know it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
And so what do? We love scored tablets. Scored means, have you ever seen those pills that have a little dent in the middle?
Yeah.
We love those for our female patients because we can tell them to cut them in half. And what I'm saying is, let's stop telling our patients to cut the pills in half. Let's start making the system develop drugs where we're including them in clinical trials so we don't have to have scored tablets. Just start with half. Let's see what happens. Then we'll go to a full pill. We don't do that with men. We just give them the pill.
Right.
So we have always kind of done these workarounds as we take good care of our female patients. But are we really taking good care of them? Or are we kind of just putting a Band-Aid on a system that's leaking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about health equality, because I know you talk a lot about that.
Right.
And, looking at this, like, we are not all living in the same environment.
Right.
Right. We have inequality in housing, food deserts, income levels,
pill
gender,
prescriptions.
pill prescription. Like there's no no score tablets. Right.
Right.
We got problems here.
Right.
But I mean, this is a big issue because, what we're seeing now is the system is like, I would say it's a hammer, like, and they're just looking for nails and they want to hammer that nail in every way possible, but they're not looking at some of the challenges that are
Right.
being faced across
Right.
the entire population
Exactly.
in the demographic areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are absolutely correct, because it hasn't occurred to a system that's led by men to look at anything else beyond themselves. It's a great example of groupthink.
Yeah.
They go, we had the best thinkers in the room and we all agreed that this was best. Well, you all supported each other. Did you ever think to invite another perspective? That would probably obviate that. And that's why when we talk about diversity, we talk about diversity of specialties. So when we talk about OBGYNs in a silo, cardiologists in a silo, rheumatologists in a silo, surgeons in a silo, we all need to talk to each other,
Mm-hmm.
all taking care of women, but we're not all sharing the information. If cardiologists talked more with OBGYNs, we'd be able to say, those pregnancy complications lead to more cardiology stuff later down the road, but we don't. OBGYNs see them here. We catch them later, pass them off to, it's just an insane system where nobody's talking. And I try to encourage doctors to embrace diversity where all of the different specialties mix in and talk, and we come out of our silos and we have teams that are cross-functional and not this referral. The OBGYN refers to the cardiologist, then puts in a referral to the surgeon, puts in a referral, then we're just like referred because that's just such a lovely, no, let's stop referral. Why don't we just all work together from the beginning? Yeah. And we can all talk. It's all in the soup. And then we can kind of all take care of the patient, the patient's at the center, and then all the specialties are around them taking care of the patient in the center instead of we're handing them off from silo. The patient just goes here. And by the time you get to the third silo, the first silo doesn't know what they're doing. By the time you get to the fourth one, the first nor the second one know what's happened to the fourth. The fifth one might talk back to the first one. It's just an insane system.
Wait, wasn't the EHR supposed to solve all that? Right. Like notes. Let's just put it in the note.
Right.
Like,
just
let's just put a note.
And the EHR has solved some of that. We still aren't talking. But we're able to read what somebody else did.
Right. And outdated.
We're not communicating.
Right.
But we can at least see what happened. But we're not really communicating and not all taking care of the patient together.
Yeah. How do you see AI working in this model where we could now start to do this?
Yeah, I see AI. I see AI catapulting women's health to the next level beyond anybody else's health, because we are the ones that are the most desperate for real data and information such that we can take great care of ourselves, including great care of our hearts. And we're not able to do that because we haven't been included in the research, and trials that have been done on us have all been relegated just to reproduction, as if we have no other organs in our bodies. Evidence-based medicine and randomized clinical trials are sort of the cornerstone of medicine, where we get our real validated data. Randomized clinical trials, can take 20 years to complete. Women don't want to waste another generation. So I see AI, women's health, being early adopters of AI to drive research beyond randomized clinical trials and evidence-based medicine. We can now get aggregated information, modeling of patients, creation of multiple thousands of scenarios, artificial sampling of what we're doing, and maybe get the answer in a week instead of 20 years. And probably most of the establishment will poo-poo it. Like, oh, that's not how we've always done it. But I think women will be willing to adopt it and drive it. And the fact of the matter is, we will learn that women are actually almost 52% of the population. We're not the minority of the population. If women embrace it and get behind it, it's going forward. Yeah. And I think we don't even understand our power. We still live in the mindset, I'm talking about women, many women, where we have to support the men in power. No matter what the men are doing, we have to support them in power. No matter if them being in power hurts us somehow, it's the whole socialization. We still have to support the men in power. If we could take our own power, we could actually drive our own healthcare. You can still support the men, but you can also take care of yourself and your daughters as well. Yeah. And I think it's women's health, once we realize how powerful the demographic is, that will embrace AI and say, enough of this randomized clinical trials in 20 years. That works great for you because you've been doing it for 100 years.
Yeah.
But for us, we don't really want to waste another generation of women not knowing anything. So we're going to take our AI and build.
And by the way, man,
Right.
you die a lot sooner than we do, so we're not following your advice anymore. We got 4 years on you, so.
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
and not only do we live longer, but because we don't get good information on our health, especially not at midlife and perimenopause and menopause, we spend 25% of our lives in poorer health.
Wow.
Even though we live longer. So it sucks. So we need to remove the suck from it and say, we're going to have 25% good years over here.
Yep. So let's talk about another statistic, which I was surprised when I was doing the research, that every 40 seconds somebody dies of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Now, women, of course, when is it menopausal, postmenopausal, are actually at a higher risk.
Right.
And then women, of course, of other, races other than white are even at a higher risk.
That's true.
So this is a pandemic or an endemic, whatever we want to call this.
It's always been. Heart disease is the #1 killer of men and women.
Yeah.
Forever. Processed foods had pushed us over the limit. But what people don't know is that it's always been the #1 killer of women. We just
I did not know.
ignored them because health system is run by men and men focus on women only for reproduction. So that's the value that women have to a male society. When you talk about women's health, it's only reproductive health. Even women embrace that. We only go to an OBGYN to take care of our health. It's not the OBGYN's fault. They're focused on what they were trained to do. So it's about the breasts and the vaginas, which are the parts that interest men. But the fact of the matter is, it's the organ that's sitting behind the breast that the men love that's actually killing the women. And men ignore it, so we ignore it too. Because it's part of the patriarchal society, right? We learn what we're taught, then we learn to support it, and then we learn to not challenge it, even if it's to our own detriment. So that's why I say sometimes I'm unpopular.
This is amazing because, like you said, more individuals need to speak out about this because I was not aware of these statistics. I knew that cardiovascular disease, heart attacks was the #1 killer, but I did not know that about women, especially when women are menopausal.
That's right.
Or postmenopausal.
That's right.
This is a huge issue in this country, and not only just this country, in the world, correct? But in this country, what you're seeing us as well as, these environments, like we talked about earlier about just moldy environments where individuals are living or don't have good access to walkable neighborhoods.
Right.
They're not getting the exercise that they need. They're not getting the proper food. You hear all this food is medicine, but if you can't get the right food,
that's right.
It's not, there's no medicine for you. You can't afford it either.
That's right. It's just the working poor. There are people who literally work every day.
Yeah.
And they are the working poor.
Yeah.
And, they live check to check, but they literally work every single day, but their job may not have health insurance.
Yeah.
Their job may, so any little thing tips them over because they're living on the edge, but they literally get up and work a full-time job every single day of their lives till they die.
Yeah.
Right.
So what do you see some solutions here of really addressing the challenges that we're facing with women and their cardiovascular risk? And how can we really get this message out? I mean, you're on these individual podcasts, but are you out there working with other groups and working with health systems?
All kinds of groups. Everything. We do everything. So I work with a lot of groups, but, I think sometimes maybe some of the most effective things that I do are on social media and bringing in like-minded people into social media who also are delivering those messages to their audiences is what I'm saying. Women have to galvanize and push it forward. And I know for a fact, physicians, my colleagues, oftentimes will say, doctors who are serious, who are real doctors are not on social media. We are taking care of our patients. We're in academic institutions. Listen, here's what I say to my colleagues. You have got to get out there because others without your credentials are out there filling in the gap with nonsense.
Yep.
So by you staying and saying, well, I've got to be pure because this is nonsense. Part of the reason it's nonsense is because your voice isn't out there providing some opposition. And so the grifters or whoever, whatever they're doing, whatever their credentials are, some of them, I don't even understand their credentials. What does this mean? And here's something, if you don't understand their credentials, they probably aren't real. And so,
it's like, where'd you get that?
If you've never heard of the school, it probably doesn't exist.
Right. Yep.
And a lot of people call themselves doctor. There's no law against calling yourself a doctor, whether you have credentials or not. You may just say, I'm a doctor of grass growing. I'm Dr. Green Thumb, whatever. It's crazy.
Right.
And so, pay attention to who you are listening to. But they generally are charming. They've got great, media skills, and they say things that are provocative. And you're like, oh my God, I watch Dr. Green Thumb all the time. You never thought to see, is that a real degree? So for my doctor friends out there, all of my colleagues, you should be on social media. You should. Not everybody, I know it's not for everybody, but don't issue it because you think it minimizes your qualifications. It doesn't. We need to have voices that are opposing the nonsense, and people need to be able to see what real doctors are and what that information is. Yeah.
How is the traditional cardiology community embracing this? Are they shooing it away, saying,
social media?
Well, no, social media as well as, when you go to these get-togethers of cardiologists, the American whatever Cardiology Association. Are they looking at this and saying, we've got to get more messaging out there with regards to this, with going on with women, or is it still this like one person narrative?
It's not a one-person narrative anymore, and it certainly has been me, Dr. Jayne Morgan, on this one-person narrative for like 7 or 8 years, but it's taken a while to catch on.
Yeah.
There is awareness, whether there is generalized awareness across all cardiologists, but certainly with organizations, there's awareness. And I know that for a fact because I work with the organizations. I look at now what they're trying to do in guidelines. So there is awareness. There is effort to fund research because most of women's research has been slashed. Funding has been slashed with all the government cuts, and people don't have research anymore, any more dollars to do women's research when it's needed now the most. So I would say there is increasing awareness. I would say that I don't get the skepticism. Surely I don't get it today that I did 6 or 7 years ago. I remember standing up in front of medical organizations to talk about it, and it was just kind of like crickets. Like, what are you talking about? And why are you talking about pregnancy in here? And you're a cardiologist, and I was walking everybody through it. It was just kind of like, what is she talking about? Now I think people are sort of like, if they're not on board, they want to know more about it. Hey, could you come and speak to our group about so-and-so? We've heard about it. We don't know enough. Maybe we should hear something. So sort of now we're in that curiosity phase.
Great.
I don't really know if I embrace it. I've been hearing about it now. I'm willing to listen, see what you have to say. So, and listen, I got my first invitation to a medical school this year, University of Vermont Medical School, to come and teach their medical students. Right. That is huge. So medical schools are starting to say, I think they may be on to something here. Invite Dr. Morgan over to talk to us. Well, so slow, we're just pushing this boulder uphill. We're just pushing this boulder uphill.
One show at a time. I mean, this is amazing. And thank you for providing this knowledge and to the audience. And again, what you've done there out in the world is truly fantastic, and continue to do what you're doing. And I hope the audience recognizes that they need to get their voice out there too. And the way you do it is you just do it.
You just start. Just think, this doesn't start from somewhere. Yeah. I've been working on this for years to get it where it goes. So when you say, oh, it just came out of nowhere. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Somebody was in that nowhere land working for years.
Hello, I've been over here. Finally, somebody shine a light on me.
So we need everybody's voice. Yeah. We need everybody to push forward. It's not just even though it's impacting women, it impacts men too. And we need men to lean in. We need women to stop thinking that if I support myself, that means I'm not supporting men. No, you can do both. And you can support yourself. And in some cases, you need to support yourself in lieu of men, because that support maybe is not helpful to you right now. You need to regain some of your power. and remember, you're almost the 52%. You don't have to be a follower forever.
Yeah.
And if, this were a matriarchal society, then we really wouldn't have this problem, but it's not. So also think about yourself. And if you're not thinking about yourself, thinking about how you will do it for others. If that's not enough, think about how you do it for science, how you do it for mankind, how we need to push this forward and figure out what your role is in it, for the good or for the bad. Am I helping or am I hurting? Find out what your lane is.
Yeah. I love the direction. Dr. Jayne Morgan, thank you so much.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you.